speaker I'd like to ask to come and speak this morning is Emma, who's a junior doctor at the University Hospital in Coventry. And as you know, the junior doctors had 2 days of strike action this week, and we were very pleased to go and stand proudly side by side those junior doctors on their picket line. Their fight, as we know, is not just about their conditions. That's a very important fight, but the link with fighting for their working conditions, their hours, their contract, is very much about saving the NHS and fighting for the NHS, and to stop the privatisation and all of those things that are going on, which the Tories want to take away from us. So I'm very pleased to welcome Emma as our first speaker this morning. She's on duty very shortly, so we've asked Emma to speak first. So Emma, if you'd like to come and speak, and thank you. All right,
hello. Thank you very much for inviting me, and I want to start off by saying a big thank you both to all the unions who've come and supported us, and to all the people of Coventry and the local area who've supported the junior doctors on the picket line and with our protest. As you may know, we've been trying to negotiate a new contract for about over 3 years, and in February the government decided that they were fed up of negotiating with us. They wanted to bring in a contract that met their needs by the start of August and refused to negotiate any further. Now, we do have real safety concerns about this new contract because he wants to use the same number of doctors. We already struggle to have enough. He doesn't want to pay any more, either investing in training or to the doctors themselves, and he wants to bring more services across 7 days, with that basically spreading us thinner over 7 days. That's the real concern that we have. It's not to do with the wages we take home at the end of the month. We're worried that how it will impact on the recruitment of doctors, the retaining of doctors, and the services throughout the week and at the weekends. To do this, the government has misled the public, misread statistics, and continued to, even when this was pointed out to them. And as the junior doctor said on Question Time, if you tell someone something is wrong and they continue to say it, it becomes a lie. So, like I say, we do have to carry on with this fight, not just for our own terms and conditions, but also because it's going to damage the NHS as a whole, and if he can bulldoze us, he can bulldoze the nurses, the healthcare assistants, the paramedics, and outside of health service, he's trying to bulldoze the teachers as well and bring in academies that aren't sort of accountable to local councils and local public. So I appreciate your support. I know it's been difficult for anyone who's had an appointment cancelled or an operation cancelled, and I'm really grateful for everyone standing together with us, and we hope to stand together with you over the next few months. Thank you very much.
I've been a student here in Coventry for over 3 years. I've been working for over 4 years, working in catering, working in youth work, working in both in Birmingham, Coventry, and I can say now that the prospects I'm seeing now as a new graduate, it's both grim and very disappointing, but I'm very optimistic in the sense that even though working wages have been stagnating for well over a decade, even though house prices are going up and skyrocketing, even though stuff like job security is, I don't know, it's been put on the back bench for a long time, when I see stuff like the junior doctors strike, when I see stuff like the protests that's been happening up and down the country, and I see normal working class people like yourself here, people in London, people in Manchester, all across big cities, coming in droves, coming in the hundreds and thousands, I really do think this government is being put in a position of fear and anxiety, and I like that.
City centre to close an hour earlier than it does. Arena Park and William Law Library to move into alternative buildings, and sadly the mobile library to go altogether. Despite having a public consultation, Coventry City Council are going to go ahead with their savage cuts, which will include 35 jobs. The following libraries will remain open on a Sunday: Basil, Earlston and Belgreen, but only if volunteers will come forward. Please note that these volunteers will not be trained, and more worryingly, will not be CRB checked. It is no secret that Coventry City Council's public consultation is an inadequate sham. Much like the consultation which happened in Lambeth Libraries. I read an article the other day which saddened me. It read, according to a BBC analysis, 350 libraries were closed over the past 6 years with a loss of 8,000 jobs in the UK. That's really sad. With Coventry City Council already on phase 2, which will be implemented sometime next year. This is despite the fact that they could fight the cuts. When I asked a Coventry City Council employee, can you fight the cuts? His answer was yes, if we wanted to. Coventry City Council have a sum of 84 million in reserves, a sum that has gone up since from 81 million this time last year. Phase 2 will see the privatisation and community-run libraries. This will lead to the sad and necessary death of our libraries, which are more than books. They are food for the imagination and for the soul. Well, I for one won't stand for it.
To pay homage to the martyrs of our movement, those who have sacrificed not only their time, their energy and their money, but very often their lives to defend on a worldwide scale the interests of working class people. This movement started in Chicago in 1886, where tens of thousands of workers went on strike to demand the 8-hour day. And since that time, May the 1st has been the driving spirit of the international labour and trade union movement. But it's not only the martyrs of the past that we celebrate, it's also those today who are fighting for the interests of the working class. Last year we celebrated the 30th anniversary of the great strike of the NUM in 1984-85. This year we will celebrate the marvellous plan for alternative products put forward by the Lucas workers when their plants were threatened with closure back in 1976. And there have been 2 disputes this year that have grabbed the attention of the labour movement.
The words Coventry against racism, and my colleagues on my right hand side are holding our banner up saying Coventry against racism and fascism. And I'm going to hear, hopefully from everybody here this afternoon, a big chant now when I say, are you opposed to racism, Coventry?
Yeah! Sorry!
Are you opposed to fascism, Coventry?
Yeah! Sorry!
Will you combat it wherever you see it, Coventry?
Yeah! Sorry!
Thank you. I was over in Dublin last Sunday celebrating with comrades over there the anniversary of the 1916 uprising. Over 100,000 people marched on the streets to commemorate that seismic event some 100 years ago. The proclamation that was read out there actually was very prescient, and it applies equally today in 2016. It stated, every man and woman shall have equal rights and equal opportunities.
It reminds me of the old saying, when the people vote, if the people don't vote in the right wing, you replace the people. It looks as if the right wing of the Labour Party don't want to obey the will of the membership of the Labour Party, so rather than replacing the membership, which now stands at more than 400,000, what they want to do is ignore the will of the membership of the Labour Party. We saw the disgusting spectacle that took place this week, and handily there were, in this stage-managed event, television cameras to watch John Mann, the arch-Blairite in the Labour Party, finger-stabbing Livingston, accusing him of all manner of things. Now let's be honest about it, and I've been in the Labour Party for 51 years. At the present moment I'm suspended from the Labour Party for defending the democratic right of Labour Party members to choose candidates in local elections. But let's be honest about it. There are racists in the Labour Party. There are anti-Semites in the Labour Party. Because the Labour Party has 400,000 members, and in the society in which we live, there's racism, there's anti-Semitism. So to pretend that the members of the Labour Party would be somehow apart and separate from the general ideas that exist in society would be to live in a world which would be absolutely perfect, a world that does not exist. But Corbyn has given his all and has stated quite firmly that he will root out racism in the Labour Party and he will root out anti-Semitism inside the Labour Party. And I take him at his word. There is a battle in the Labour Party. It's not about anti-Semitism, it's not about racism. Important although they may be, it's a battle for the soul of the Labour Party. Who does the Labour Party represent? Does it represent Labour or does it represent capital? Does it represent workers or does it represent bosses? Does it represent socialism or does it stand for capitalism?
I'm very pleased to welcome today in Coventry's celebration of Mayday, Matt Rapp from the FBU. Give him a warm welcome.
Comrade brothers and sisters, people of Coventry, we're here celebrating Mayday, which is Workers' Day. It's Workers' Day here in Britain and it's Workers' Day all across the world, where we come together and celebrate our movement, and we remember actually none of the things that our people have got were handed on a plate by those in power. Everything we've got, whether it's the right to vote, whether it's the right to have a house, to have an education, all of those things have been fought for by generations of working people. And what we're saying today in Mayday here in Coventry, or Mayday in Australia, or wherever it is we're going to carry on that fight so that we have decent conditions, decent jobs, a decent future for young people. And I'd say to people who are walking past, if you want to get involved in defending your health service, if you want to get involved in fighting for a decent education, then come and join the trade unions in Coventry in that campaign. We are, I read in a paper this morning that in the Eurozone they're saying that apparently they've just about recovered from the crisis of 2007, but they're not quite sure yet. And the truth is, for working people here in Britain and for working people all across Europe and in much of the world, none of us have recovered. Wages have taken a hit, our pensions have been robbed, our public services are being destroyed here in Britain, in Europe and across the world. And let's remember that when that crisis happened, it wasn't junior doctors who caused it, it wasn't nurses or teachers who caused it, it was multi-billionaires in the banking system that caused that economic crisis. And yet they expect us to pay the price for their failure, for the failure of their system. And we're paying the price all over the world. And if you look in my own industry, in the fire and rescue service, we have the worst cuts in history that we are facing at the present time. Some 7,000 firefighters, we're only a small part of the public services, but some 7,000 firefighters' jobs gone since 2010. Here in the West Midlands, the worst cuts in the history of the fire service here in the West Midlands as a result of that austerity. You look in our health service, and we heard from Emma, the junior doctors at the front line of defending, not about shifts or Saturday working, it's about defending the NHS. Let's give a big cheer for junior doctors standing up against this Tory government. And then on education, they want us to completely take away all local democracy in education by academising our schools, because in reality, all across the board, for our public services, they want to see privatisation of health and privatisation of education and privatisation of the fire and rescue service as well. And we're here to say, as we are all across the country, that we aren't taking it. But it's not just in the public sector. You've also got rip-off bosses all across the private sector as well. Yeah. We saw the scandal this week about BHS, where a rip-off capitalist boss has come in, fleeced the company and ripped off the pensions of 20,000 workers. What an utter disgrace. and then they expect the taxpayer to come in and bail out the failure of those of that pension scheme. Well, I say those billionaires, those multi-millionaires, the banks and the rich must be made to pay for that crisis and for their failures, not us. Yes, jail them is a damn good idea. Put them in jail, put it green, first up for prosecution. Some of you may have seen we've got a referendum coming up on Europe. I suspect in the audience here and in the streets of Coventry there's different views, and that's the debate we need to have. But I just want to make one point. I attended a TUC meeting earlier this week, and then interestingly the day after that TUC meeting an article appeared in The Guardian, jointly written by the former General Secretary of the TUC, Brendan Barber, and someone else who happens to be the Tory Prime Minister today. And I wrote a response to that in The Guardian during the week, saying it was an utter disgrace that trade union leaders should be lining up on the same platforms and sharing articles with people who are destroying our public services and attacking our workers' rights through the trade union bill. Darryl mentioned some of the arguments that are going on in the Labour Party, and I'll just say this about it. I think this entire movement has got a proud record of challenging racism, anti-Semitism in all its forms, going back to, and let's be clear, the right wing of the Labour Party. When we fought, not we, previous generations fought fascism in the 1930s, it wasn't the right wing who stood with people on the streets, it was the left who organised at Cable Street and elsewhere. So we've got a proud record of standing up on that. But the truth is that what is going on, we need to cut through the lies. What is going on is an attempted coup against Jeremy Corbyn, and we need to say things as they are. And why do they want to do that? They want to do it because they want to destroy any hope. It was remarkable last year that we saw thousands of people, ordinary people, turning out to political meetings when they say people aren't interested in politics. One of the most remarkable pictures I saw was the two teenagers climbing in through a window because they couldn't get through a door into one of those rallies. And we're seeing this all across the world. Bernie Sanders in the United States again has sparked fantastic interest. And what has he said? He said there is a tiny class at the top of representing the 1% who are ripping the rest of us off in the United States, here in Britain and all over the world. And what he's ignited, and what Corbyn ignited last year, is the possibility that we don't have to take this crap off these people. Actually, there's a different way of doing things. We can change things as our forefathers and forebears did in our movement in the past. We can say things don't have to be run for the profit of a tiny minority here in Britain, in Europe or across the world. And when they say they haven't got the resources to provide libraries, for God's sake, or decent schools, or homes for young people, you know what? It's a damn lie. We've got the resources to provide all of those things and far more. The point is, the wealth and the power is simply in the wrong hands. And the task we have to set ourselves is turning things the right way up and putting ordinary people, the majority, in charge of their future and their world. Solidarity greetings from Mayday. Keep up the struggle.
If you are not in a trade union, then join one, because you have better working conditions, better pay. Get your mates to join a trade union, because in a trade unionised workplace you are better protected. So make sure you join a trade union. Our next speaker is Dave from the Unite Against Fascism, and he's going to explain to you about another campaign that this city will be joining, and so I'd like you to give a warm welcome to Dave.
Okay. This city is a proud city based on our labour movement and trade union history. And let us not forget that that trade union and labour movement has been built by people from all over the world in the city today. You only have to look around the group of people gathered here right now to understand that. In Coventry, we have many problems. In Coventry, we have the effects of austerity, and we debate about how we can fight that austerity, and it is vital we do so. But in doing so, we have to remember this. We must give no quarter whatsoever to those who seek to play the game of divide and rule.
We support the asylum seekers and the refugees. We offer them whatever support they need. But one thing that they've been asking for, and this is anybody from any part of the world can join us. We're not racist, we're not, anybody can join us. But what they're asking for is to be able to work. There are men and women who have been here 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and they're not able to work.